why Western scholars try to alienate Ethiopia from the rest of Africa and its diaspora of racism. And since Ethiopians can also become victims of racism, of course they are considered as black people too, whether they like it or not. So the labels black and white are not biological terms and do not refer.
Speak louder. And I know someone will be out here being like, can't the whites be victims of of racism? Actually, no, they are enjoying life in the privileged side of situation.
UNESCO played a key role in promoting this narrative in its publications, portraying Ethiopia as having closer ties to Europe than to Africa.
So today is a beautiful day to talk about what is the definition of black, and we've been having these conversations going, and if people saying, are you black, are you not black? In the process, we identified that Kenyans do identify as blacks because all their lives they've grown saying the meaning of the black color and the flag is to represent the people. And today we are diving deeper with an Ethiopian teacher, I call her teacher, to teach us about Ethiopians and the perspective of blackness. Are you guys ready? Buckle up by subscribing and hitting the like button, and let me know in the comment section down below what is your opinion on what black means. Now, in this case, I have to clarify. When I don't know, do you just tell me as you think, what does black mean to you when you hear the word black? Like black in terms of color of people.
Are Ethiopians black? To answer this question, it is key to first understand not only the origin but also today's meaning and role of the two labels black and white. You know, when Africans were taken captives and dragged on the slave ships, they didn't identify themselves as black. They identified themselves as Igbo, Europe, Wolof, you name it. They became the blacks when they left the slave ships and first set foot on American soil. Same group.
So let's first begin by agreeing with her that actually when they left, they didn't know blackness existed. That is something during the slave trade. And it's the same thing that you find sometimes. We also don't necessarily walk around being like, you know, I'm black, that's why I'm buying this. Most of the times we don't, because in our environment we define ourselves based on other things. You know, I'm Kikuyu, I'm Masai. You find myself saying that more than I say I'm black.
For the label white people, when the ship crew boarded the slave ships on the European ports of Bordeaux, Liverpool, Manchester, they didn't do so as the white people. They did so as the Portuguese, Genoese, Irish, even Arab.
So even the whites, you say, were not necessarily whites. They had their own definitions of who they were.
Were part of the crew, working as translators and navigators. They became the white people the moment they first set foot on African soil. Today, these two labels, black and white, function as political terms.
So if, quote unquote, the blacks stayed in their land and the whites, quote unquote, the whites, then everyone, there would be no this whole discussion that we keep talking about. If everyone just stayed in their territory, in their land, left people to be as they were, would be fine still. And this whole discussion that we are having would not exist.
Accordingly, we refer to white people as those who benefit from the legacies of slavery and who, whether they like it or not, enjoy certain privileges, so-called white privileges. In the same sense, we refer to black people as those who can potentially become victims of racism. And since Ethiopians can also become victims of racism, of course they are considered as black people too, whether they like it or not. So the labels black and white are not biological terms and do not refer.
Speak louder. And I know someone will be out here being like, can't the whites be victims of of racism? Actually, no, they are enjoying life in the privileged side of situation. They can experience things based on color, but doesn't mean that is racism. Yeah, I actually had someone ever told me right straight on my face when I used to love to say, I think I'm a racist before I explain my scenario and why I think in certain ways. And they were like, you cannot be a racist because you're the one who is below. It's only those that are up that can be racist to those that are below, if you get what I mean, in terms of being victims.
Skin color. After all, nobody of us is really black or white. Get ready for part 2 of this series.
Okay, before we get to part 2, she even goes on.
Worked overtime to alienate Ethiopia from the rest of Africa.
So she goes ahead to even explain. So then white people can't be victims of racism, and she said no, they cannot be victims of racism because they cannot be discriminated based on their skin color. Oh, they can be discriminated based on their skin color, but not victims of racism. Yeah, so they can experience discrimination, but not racism. Okay, then someone says they weren't Africans taken on slave ships. That's the misconceptions with it. It was Israelite tribes. Okay, educate me on that. Educate me on that. Who are the people that were taken on slave trade? And then goes ahead and disagrees and says that is not true. Africans are both black and Africans. They in fact are black first. That labeling was at birth before Europeans came to Africa. They were still black in complexion. Their sex, language, customs didn't change the fact that they were black. Greek used the words Ethiopian or Ethio meaning burnt face. Greeks attributed sun, burnt as the cause for their black skin color fact. But would you need this differentiation if someone who is different from you did not come? Like, would you know this is white if I didn't put a blue on, if there was no comparison? The name Ethiopia itself is a Greek and it means of burnt face. Let me know in the comment section what are your opinions on this matter as we get into the second part where she continues to explain this whole idea of if Ethiopians are black.
Welcome to part 2 of my mini-series where I will explain to you how and why Western scholars try to alienate Ethiopia from the rest of Africa and its diaspora. On the 1st of March in 1896, the scramble to divide and occupy African territory experienced a major turning point when an African army led by Emperor Menelik II decisively crushed the invading Italian forces in the mountains of Adwa, where I am right now here in the Tigray region of northern Ethiopia. In an age of relentless European expansion, the victory at Adwa was an example of black military excellence that challenged the then prevailing racist colonial ideology of white superiority and black inferiority. While the victory at Adwa was not the first time that a black army defeated a white army, this victory was unique because it ultimately ensured Ethiopia's sovereignty, making it the only African empire to remain free from European colonization at that time. It was right here in the mountains behind me that Ethiopia defeated Italy, which sent shockwaves across the entire Western world. And imagine, instead of acknowledging the military excellence, strength and unity of the Ethiopian people, the only way they were able to make sense of it was by claiming that Ethiopians aren't really black, that they are part of the Caucasian race. Now let that sink in.
Well,
are Ethiopians black? The reason why I'm asking is because it's Black History Month and I have met so many other black people who claim that Ethiopians aren't really black or even African, and unfortunately there are so many Ethiopians who don't like to identify as such either. Therefore I created this mini-series to find answers to this question and to show you how Western scholars and institutions try to alienate Ethiopia from the rest of Africa. Starting from the 1920s, Ethiopia, a land with a rich cultural heritage, faced a major narrative shift, strongly influenced by Western perceptions, particularly through UNESCO's lens. Ethiopian historiography began emphasizing the country's unique development, tied to Western civilizations through ancient empires, religious manuscripts, and Christianity. This exceptionalism was rooted in a narrative long promoted by Ethiopian highland elites, reinforced by Western racist ideas and the belief that Ethiopia didn't culturally belong to Africa. Both Western scholars and Ethiopian highland elites shared the view that Ethiopians didn't really fit into the African identity. They believed Ethiopia intentionally distanced itself to protect its Christian heritage from perceived uncivilized influences from the rest of Africa, rooted in racist beliefs towards black Africans. UNESCO played a key role in promoting this narrative in its publications, portraying Ethiopia as having closer ties to Europe than to Africa. Consequently, UNESCO's portrayal further isolated Ethiopia from the rest of Africa and reinforced a sense of cultural superiority.
so I think my conclusion on this whole matter, and it's based on someone's response, is you want to know if you're black, go to America and the American police will make you know if you're black or not. Now, the discussion of racism continues because it's very active in different places, and it's sad, and but people are dying, so what can we do? Just converse about it, educate each other about it. And sometimes you don't have to wait until it hits deep for you to be in acceptance of some things that are actually happening in your life now or even in the future. So let me know in the comment section down below. What is your opinion? Have you come to a conclusion of what the definition of you being black is? And what does that look like? And also we have to agree that the definition of black has greatly been distorted to mean so many other things, that we even start talking about maybe we would say black people are Africans, but is that true? If you go to some African countries, you find people that are not melanated. Would they stand and be like they are black? So many other things have changed over time, and this is the current situation that we are in. So let me know in the comment section down below, do you think Ethiopians are black? Until the next one, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you soon.